Good morning. It is so grey and gloomy today, but it's finally winter-ish. Autumn, winter, cold. I just see cold and hot. And it's getting cold now. Which is good. Hey, Miss Moo. I just ate apple and cucumber, and because like a lot of the time I share my food with her, she's like hopping around me, and I ate the last two pieces, and she went crazy. She was like sniffing and like hopping around. She was like, as if you didn't give them to me, because I usually would, but not this morning. Anyway, it's cold. Finally, good. Earth is doing something that it's should be doing. Not should be, but I think we all know that it's scary when you usually expect it to get cold, that it's still 30 degrees Celsius. Today I want to talk about answers and a little bit of as intention setting for like my videos, and potentially like a little bit of context. I don't know. It's been I've had a bit of a conversation in my head around, in particular, like the last few videos that I've posted, because they've actually had interactions. Like there's been people giving feedback. Well, not necessarily feedback, but just interacting with me. And that's been really lovely. And it's been really heartwarming. Because I was so pleasantly surprised by, and I have been so pleasantly surprised because I guess it's just been building. But the kind of interactions the kinds of people, I guess, well, the kind of interactions that people will have with me in a video, like what part of them seems to come to the surface when you're here, you know? And it's really lovely and it's really heartwarming, and there's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of kindness, there's a lot of generosity and encouragement and support, and it's so lovely. But yeah, I think another common thread is there's a lot of answers and there's a lot of solutions, which again, like, it warms my heart to see them, because, well, actually, there's been twofold of reaction. Firstly, it's really heartwarming, because to offer a solution in some way means that there's some care. You know, there's some compassion, there's some care, and there's some empathy or sympathy. And I love seeing that. Hi, she's giving me little licks. Kisses. I love you. The back door is open. You don't need to be bothering me if this is just for the door. Anyway, it's lovely. Yeah, it warms my heart. It warms my heart to see that side of people brought out and brought forth, especially into this place. So thank you if you're anyone that's offered that part of yourself, or even if you're not, even if you're anyone that's ever offered any part of yourself to like engaging with me. Thank you. It's great. I think it's kind of like the really lovely thing about YouTube, kind of. It can be one of the nicer things, and it can also, in ways, you know, we're a little daft here. It's not all roses and sunshine, but for now it's all roses and it's lovely. But I do, the second fold is that there's a lot of solutions and a lot of answers, and yeah, while I am grateful, I think it it like put a bow onto the thoughts that have been swirling around my head recently around like why I feel the need to do any of this. And yeah, like my reasoning or my meaning or like what value I see, like all of those very like elusive like purpose things about like why am I doing this thing? Why am I doing this thing that I'm not insanely committed to, but there's a feeling that I'm like I'm not, I guess I'm not, I don't know, what is commitment? But I have, whenever I go to make a video, it's usually drawn by this feeling in my solar. And that's a feeling to follow yourself and like your will or your purpose almost. And so I find it interesting that making these videos is attached to that kind of feeling. And so I've been in my own time just exploring that and seeing these solutions come forward from others is like, it sparked a bit of like, oh, okay, I think this is why I'm doing it. Which is, I just want to share my expression of the feminine experience, which is why it makes a lot of sense that solutions and answers will come from others, because I think it's a natural response. I don't think, well, it makes sense to me for it to be a natural response. If you see somebody in their feelings, in their emotions, in confusion or expressing confusion or expressing anxiety or expressing uncontained experiences or uncontrolled feelings or thoughts, or that state of states of being that aren't resolved and that don't have a lot of sense to them, like all you can really observe about them is that they're happening. And if something's happening, it can't happen forever. So naturally, I think people want to bring sense and bring resolve and bring conclusion, or I think sense and like, especially understanding. It's the natural path of it. It's the natural path of inspiration. Like it goes from this elusive feeling into this sense of direction of knowing what you want to do. It's how feelings are processed. You go from being in them and like feeling them, and then you come into an understanding of them. So it's the natural sway of things. And then eventually it goes back the other way. A lot of the times once we have understanding of something, it sits and it's useful for however long it's useful for, and then it gets catapulted back into the, oh wait, this no longer applies anymore. I'm gonna have to figure this out again. And that right there is what I tend to express a lot in my videos. And that is, I think, what I mainly want to show here, is that I think the world and the people around us and even ourselves, we offer to each other and to ourselves and to everything around us, that there's always a solution to things, and that potentially in recent years, or like in recent developments of like understanding of psychology and everything like that, that like to understand and to resolve is safety, and to understand and to resolve and to be in a state of peace and to be in a state of knowing is security. And that's not necessarily untrue. But what I, in my life, have worked towards encouraging within myself, and what I can now understand and like retroactively look back, or retrospectively look back and understand about a lot of what I share on here, is that you can be in the chaos and you can be safe there. And I think that's what I have meant to show, is that it's possible to feel confused and to feel at odds with yourself and to feel frustrated with yourself and to question yourself and to question your values and your beliefs and to question how you're navigating your life and to question if you value yourself, or like to question the parts of yourself that you suspect might be devaluing yourself, and to be in strife and to be in chaos and to be there and to know that even in amongst all of that, there can be a part of you that tells you that it's safe to be here and it's okay to explore these things, and it's okay to not do it perfectly, and it's okay to not feel resolved for days or even weeks sometimes, and it's okay to not be in peace, and it's okay to get caught in your mind, and it's okay to be somebody and be a human being in the world that doesn't follow the answers even if you know them, and that fails at reaching the solutions that we know and that have been around for hundreds of years. And you know, like little islands of, if this starts happening with you, just do this, or if this starts happening to you, just do this, because it's what a lot of people in the world have spent a lot of their time creating and forming and knowing and understanding, that this is the resolution to this problem. So when you're in that problem, just do this. For me, if we're going to label anything a problem, which is like, just for the purposes of this example, it's being in that feminine chaos, being in that yin, being in that darkness, being in that unknown, that uncontained, that uncontrolled. When I'm there, sometimes it feels necessary for me to be there for a while before I go to any resolution or any conclusion, because there's a lot there that I feel that I need to explore and uncover about myself and question about myself before I go into a state of peace. And there's a part of me that I know that I know nothing, and it's really truly not lost on me that hundreds of thousands, potentially, I don't know how long things go on for, but thousands maybe of years of thought of like so many different people have gone into things like Buddhist teaching, Taoist ideas and philosophies of life, and meditation, even just most recently like wellness practices and ways of navigating consciousness. But I feel like, especially right now, and just I guess like the ideas of wider society, we're only really just maybe in the past 100 or so years getting into that exploration of the unconscious in a more mainstream way. I'm not saying it's never been done, people have been around for so long, oh my god, but in a more mainstream way, like speaking about it, identifying it, accepting it as a part of like a person. We're only really, from what I can understand and know and see, in a very mainstream way, and it's been popular and accepted, we're only been doing that for the past couple 100 years, maybe 100 years, if that. And I can't help but see a bit of a pattern. Again, I feel so hesitant and tentative saying this as a 25-year-old woman. I've been alive for 25 years, but I can't help but feel that I see a bit too much dialogue that goes on around getting people out of the place of the feminine and into the masculine, getting you out of the chaos and into the peace, and out of this and into that. And this might feel too difficult, so when it feels too difficult, come here. And I want to challenge that. Of course, this is a very personal experience and a very subjective experience, because everybody's feminine will have different levels of intensity. Everyone has different darkness. Everyone has different capacity. So like, there's also, it's completely subjective from experience from each time you go in there, place to place, like for what you're like, whatever pattern you're addressing, or whatever feeling you're going into, whatever experience or memories that takes you down, whatever part of yourself that takes you into. Even within ourselves, we're going to have different thresholds with those things, and we're going to have different times where we need to call it. So I also want to make it clear that I'm not devaluing the knowledge. I'm not devaluing the things that we understand in order to find peace again, and to mediate ourselves, and to bring us back into balance, and to bring us back into consciousness, and bring us back into awareness and a balanced, reasonable, and navigatable, like a place within ourselves where we're able to navigate, we're not lost anymore. Because I also do understand that there is a reason why we come out of it. There is a reason why we need a breath of fresh air. There is a reason why we need to come to the surface. So all of those techniques and all of those points or bridges that we build are necessary and are valuable. And creating understanding from our experience is important, and knowing about these things is important. But there's also a part of me that, in my experience, understands that the only way that we gain any wisdom is by being in that experience, and being with our feelings, and being with ourselves. It's all well and good, and this is what I mean by this has been coming up in the past couple of videos that I've said, is that it's all well and good for people to say and know things and tell kids things their entire life growing up, and like these little loopholes, these little things, like the sayings that people have of like, time heals all wounds. You get told, I think that's the first thing that you really get told. It's like, you can be told that, and you know that, and then you go through something that takes a couple months, and you understand like, oh, okay, like there's nothing I can do about this. I need to just be with this feeling, and I need to feel it, and I need to process it, and I can't do anything about it. I need to be with it. Then you understand the wisdom behind time heals all wounds. So there's a part of me that feels a challenge between accepting the knowledge of the world and wanting to dive in and find my own wisdom by being with myself and allowing myself to be in chaotic states. Like allowing myself to be in anxiety, or maybe it's not even anxiety that I feel a lot of the time. A lot of the time it's me being within myself and asking myself questions and allowing myself to. And oftentimes it's not lost on me that if I'm able to relay that, I must look like somebody that's asking a lot of questions. And if you have a lot of questions, if you have more questions than answers, then you're going to look lost. And you're going to look like you don't know what you're doing, and you're going to look confused, and you're going to look vulnerable, and you're going to look like you need guidance. So that makes sense. But I suppose where I'm coming from internally is a place of, I'm here because I want to ask these questions, because there's something in me that wants to be found. And a friend of mine passed away recently, and I also did like a Samhain ritual with like some other friends, and we were going over like connections to people who lost and like what they've taught you. And this friend who passed taught me that depth wasn't just a place, and it wasn't just a concept, it was a navigator. It was something to guide you, and it was something to not only fall into but follow. And I really take that with me. And so I guess why I'm expressing all of this and why I'm sharing all of this is that I want to encourage that within others. I want to be here and show you that you can be all of these confusing, vulnerable things and question yourself and be lost and be confused and have more questions than answers and doubt yourself and loathe yourself and be frustrated and fall back into patterns that you might have been working on for years and years and years, and to revisit the same problem that you might have had and you've gotten 7 different answers for it. To be somebody that knows mindfulness practices and knows sensations of the body and knows feeling and knows maladaptive coping mechanisms. Being somebody that can know these things but still is learning and still is imperfect and still is challenged by what it is of knowing and being and doing and feeling and navigating the two and balancing the two and valuing the two and trusting myself. Ultimately and implicitly, like knowing that I am the expert to my story. I am the expert on my life. Like that's something that studying counseling has really, I guess, brought into me, is that you go into counseling, if you're a counselor, you're holding space for a client, person-centered therapy. It invites the counselor to believe that every person that they see, every person that you are holding space with, they are the expert on their life. They know the most about them. Even if you think that you know their story and what's going on and the cognitions behind them and the patterns they're in, nobody else knows themselves like they know in the present moment that they're with you. And you must believe, like you are invited to believe that everybody has within them the capacity to help themselves and to find their own path. And within that is the understanding that people will make decisions that you could look at and you go, why would you choose that when there's clearly that option? And it's like, because something in them knew that they couldn't. For whatever reason, they weren't ready for it. So they needed to pick that option because they needed to learn that lesson. And that's what they needed to do. Even if it looks like the wrong thing, even if it looks like the thing that's not better for them, even if it looks like the decision that doesn't lead to the quickest conclusion, you're invited and you need to, as a counselor, believe that that is that person's autonomy and that is that person's journey, and they need to do that. And that they are the expert on their lives. They know what is good for them and they know the journey that they need to be on. It's a lot of responsibility, but we need to have a lot of responsibility for our lives as people. And that's something that I take on looking at myself and looking at my process and looking at my journey. It's, what's the word for it? I don't know if it's a word for this, but there's also another word, which is unconditional positive regard, which I think is that it's the belief that somebody will always be able to help themselves. That's what that bit is. I hold that to myself. And I think I have for a lot of my life. And I think that's been the thing to get me through a lot of my life. And I've not understood that until now. And I've been sharing that with my friends. And I think it's one of the most beautiful things you could believe about yourself. And I encourage everyone to take that on, because it can get you through the chaos. It can get you through navigating things and not being resolved all the time. It can get you through the questions, even if you don't have answers. It can get you through the feeling of being and the relentless strife that can sometimes be. It's a pretty strong tether, I guess, is what I'm saying. And yeah, I don't know, I just felt the need to speak on this today because I've realized that I've never explicitly outlined why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, or why I feel called to do this, or even expressed that it does have like a lot of unconscious meaning to me. And there's a little part of myself that wants to invalidate myself and go, in the grand scheme of things, this is nothing. But in the scheme of my life right now, this is a part of my life and I value it, and I want to be truthful in that. Because every person that's commented, like, thank you for sharing this, I relate, or I feel seen, or this has helped me, or you're talking makes me feel like more at ease with this part of myself. Like, every single one of them is why I'm like, oh, exactly. Because that validates like all the times that I've told myself like, okay, I sound confused, and I am confused, and what I'm saying right now is imperfect, and I'm doubting myself, and I feel whack. Like, there are so many times where I come on here feeling like that, and the thing that I say to myself is, well, if it helps one person feel seen, that's it. That's what this feeling is like telling me to do. And there's times that I come in here feeling resolved, and it's like a similar response of like, if that helps, if this makes sense, if my feeling of resolve can bring something to somebody else, then same thing, like one person, that's all it is. Yeah. I guess, yeah, if that makes any sense, I just want to encourage people to find the strength in being with their chaos and being with themselves and being in their navigation. And to know that the solutions that the world offers are meaningful and are valuable. Like, breathing techniques, so good. Feeling into your body, understanding what sensations feel into your body, so useful. Being able to understand like places that you can take yourself, or things that you can do to calm down and come into your body and back into your awareness and out of your mind. Knowing that journaling might help, knowing talk therapy might help, sand play, playing with Play-Doh, having a pet, having plants, going outside. The kind of books that stimulate your mind and the kind of books that bring your mind down. The kind of music that stimulates you, the kind of music that brings your insides out, and the music that makes your outsides even more out. Like, knowing these solutions and knowing these tools that help you ground and that help you bring you into a state of consciousness and containment are so useful. But knowing that you can trust yourself to feel the grit and the reality of confusion and doubt and insecurity and fear, and hold yourself through exploring what those states of being can teach you and bring you, and then learning how to navigate out of them specifically for your own self and your own being is so important, and is something that you can do, and it is something that you are capable of doing and you can trust yourself to do. That's what I want to share. And yeah, just to like say again, like, thank you for any person that's commented their wisdom and their knowledge and shared their knowledge and their wisdom, because that's how we get awareness of those paths, and we can teach each other and we learn from each other. And I know a lot of people in like spiritual communities say this, but like, take what resonates and leave the rest. If you see something or if you hear something that doesn't seem like it fits for you, if you're not ready to try it, don't try it. If it for some reason just rubs on you and you're like, I don't think that's right for me, allow it not to be right for you. That's okay. It might not be right now. Maybe it'll be right when you're 46. Maybe something that was right for you when you were 12, 13, 14 will be right for you when you're 25, and then it'll be wrong for you when you're 25. And then it'll be right for you again when you're 26. Like, life changes, it is always changing. We should all listen to each other with discernment and still trust and protect ourselves to be, or to have enough trust within ourselves to know that we are strong in our autonomy and our sovereignty and are the agents of our own lives and destinies and everything like that. Which sounds really big, but it's how I feel. So if any of this made sense, thank you for listening. Yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing yourselves. If you're someone that has, I encourage you to do it. Because I often also think that the comments that are left, they're here for us all to see, and they're here for us all to learn from and take from. And I think that's a really important part that I'm seeing within this. And it's really nice. Yeah, so thank you. So yeah, that's all I want to talk about. I've been a little bit anxious to talk about this because I hope it comes across. I hope it comes across and I hope it can be understood in the way that I intend for it, but I also know that that's out of my control, so that's okay. Yeah. Bye.